a lot of good stuff to share with you. The load boards, I have one particularly will be very interesting to see. Another thing, obviously, I found something on FMCSA. Something happened in 2015 on Thursday. A lot of you asked me about what will be um, the rates per se, right? Are those rates are going to increase? Like, what will happen? We'll be talking about the trends and everything in between. So please, before we begin, just a quick favor. Just let me know where you guys from. And if you guys have the question, please let me know. Hello, brother. Hello. Hey. So hope you guys enjoy this live. And let me share this. And before I say this, we will be talking about the management. It's very important. I spoke with one of my friends yesterday. He's in car hauling business. And by the way, this will be a casual, right? It's just like we're hanging out. We're talking about the trucking. We're talking about the dispatching and, business and all that good stuff. So if you found the live session that we did on Thursday helpful, this will be absolutely amazing. And again, we'll be doing on Thursdays, 1 p.m. Eastern time. On Sundays, we'll be doing 12 p.m. Eastern time. So it will take about 2 to 3 hours. So I'll be sitting here and talking. Did a lot of carriers, had a lot of good questions, and I want to share this. One of my mentors said, if you can't manage your 24 hours, how on earth do you think that you're going to manage a $200,000 an asset? Just think about. Most of us, like including myself, most people really bad at managing their times. The reason why I say this, because most of us, I think human beings are more inclined towards like pleasure and entertainment and away from boredom or the pain. This is where and the reason why I say this, because a lot of good stuff happening when we really into the pain. Like, this is why people say no pain, no gain, right? So that really hit when I heard this from one of my mentors. Like, if you can't manage 24 hours, how on earth do you think that you're going to buy these trucks, let's say a truck and a trailer, and averaging about, let's say, $200,000 asset? How you think you're going to manage this truck if you can't manage your 24 hours? Well, see, if you're a carrier, if you're running a business, maybe you're a dispatcher, if you're going into the business, think, if we can't manage our 24 hours, right? Most of the time we are on social media, be it YouTube, be it TikTok or whatever. Myself, I spend a lot of times, obviously, yes, watching podcasts, the business podcasts, whatnot, the online courses, but then movies as well. We need some entertainment, right, to kind of entertain ourselves. But when we're away from the pain, this is where we get in trouble, specifically in trucking. Why? Why is that? Well, because remember on Thursday, we talked about this, and I said many, many times that trucking is brutally competitive and a capital intensive business, and absolutely non-forgiving when it comes to management. If you have poor management, it's done, right? I was visiting one of my friends, and I haven't spoken, with him in the last 2 to 3 years. And I visited personally his office. He is in a car hauling business. Obviously, he cries. He cries all the time. And he said, "Listen, I was really bad at managing my time. I was always, fun, going out, hanging out with my friends, whatnot. But then when we came to the United States, and a lot of friends and families going into the trucking, and I realized, hey man, I need to start a trucking company." Imagine this guy, he's managing about $10 million business now. We'll talk about a lot of things, like he is crying because he's not making money, he's not profitable. He said, I think about 6 months now, he's negative, he's not making any money, but he is putting back the money that he made in the last, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 years. Like, he's pulling the money from his savings account and putting back into the business. Obviously, he's not in the good, I would say, situation, but then, hey, there's something to improve, obviously optimize. And the conversation goes something like this. And he said, I started this trucking company I bought, I think he said dually, he was moving about 3 cars. Then he realized that, hey, the market is really kind of growing, and then he should buy the Cottrell 7 car moving trailer, right? So there is a bobtail, the truck, and then a trailer. The brand name is Cottrell. He bought that truck and trailer, and now he started moving 7 cars. And quickly realized that in the United States, the auto transport industry relies on one equipment and one equipment only. So if you're new, this will definitely help you. If you're interested in, trucking, more specifically interested in moving cars, maybe at some point, maybe you're interested in dispatching, cars. He said that the equipment that U.S. auto, transport industry relies on, it's the 9-car, let's say, Cottrell or the equipment. Basically, if you are interested in moving cars, you must have a 9-car, trailer, and it's expensive. Right now, it's about $390,000. So recently, he bought about 5 more trucks, and he said average is about close to $400,000. So imagine buying a $400,000 worth of equipment and multiply that by 5 new trucks. So, and I'm like, man, you're not making money, you're struggling, you're putting all the savings back into the business, and you said last 7 months, not making money, you're going negative, and you're putting money back into the business so that you can stay in the business. And like, why is that? Why not closing the doors and then obviously doing something else? And said, listen, I owe a lot of money, right? So he's in debt. That means he's using the debt to create a business. He's an asset-based business. That means he owns a truck and trailers. So we started talking about this, and I'm like, okay, hey, tell me, what would be like, would you prefer East Coast to West Coast, or like coast to coast, like moving OTR, or would you be interested in, let's say, moving regional, and what would be the reason for that? And be honest with you, when I realized, and I've spoken to many carriers, and it's very hard to understand like what they're doing. They're like, man, when I come to the business, the office, first thing first, what I do is log into the central dispatch. This is a load board specifically for car haulers. And he's like, hey, I want just loads from Atlanta, Georgia goes to, I don't know, or from, let's say, Southeast goes to West Coast, let's say California, right? He's looking for a full load, and he's sitting, hours and hours. But fortunately, good for him that he's been in business, if I'm not mistaken, I think from 2007. So he started his business right before the recession or whatever. The market crash happened in 2008. So he started in 2007, and he has a lot of, brokers. And he said something very amazing. He said, 80% of my revenue comes from 20% of the brokers that I have built the relationship over the years, 10, 15 years or 20 years that I'm, in business doing car hauling or moving cars. So, and we started talking about the management. And I said, listen, remember you said that I can't manage my time, but then how on earth I'm going to manage, I don't know, multiple trucks, drivers in this business and all that. So he said, this is what I quickly realized, that now I'm not on my business. I'm not on the business, but I'm in the business. Just basically I created a job for me. I'm operating a business, but at the same time, my business operates me. So he has no life. Obviously, he's making, money here and there. He bought a couple of, I don't know, yards and, there's a couple of shops, whatnot. He's invested, but then he's in trouble. The trouble is he can't manage the business right now. It's grown in about $10 million business, and he has a lot of assets, a lot of debt. And I said, okay, just walk me through the process, like hiring drivers. He's like, man, listen, I've been doing this since 2007, and then I had a lot of, drivers working for me, and then this guy talks to this guy, and this guy talks to that guy. He recommends, and then we have friends and families in business, and these people recommend and saying, hey, this guy has 20, 25 trucks. He's been in business for 10, 15 years. Just go talk to him. And said, well, that's not the answer that I'm looking for. Or like, if I am a driver, let's say I'm interested in, working with you, we specifically talking about the management. And I said, like, how that process goes. Like, how am I like going to find you online, or am I going to fill out some form? I said, I don't have that system. Basically, he has no system to hire drivers. And obviously he gets referrals from other companies and previous drivers, but then there's no process. He never thought about having a process where, like, hey, first step is this, then second step will be writing my ads to attract drivers specifically in Southeast area who are specifically interested in working for car haulers or car hauling companies, or more specifically small fleet owners like 5 to 20 trucks or something like that. We started talking and he's just listening. He's really interested, but then he's like, see, that's where the lack of management comes in. And because of that, it kills me. I don't know how to manage people. People come, they drive, they go into accident. We have disagreements. They leave me, and insurance claims, whatnot, and poor management. And imagine how many businesses going into, meaning entrepreneurs, interested in trucking businesses, and they go into business without knowing that we don't know anything about management. Like myself, when I started my business back in 2014 and actually actively moving loads or moving cars, I started in car hauling as well. And then I quickly realized that, hey, it's like, I can't manage. It's like, I don't know anything about marketing. I don't know anything about sales. Sales being, if you're, let's say, if you're going to start your trucking business in 2015, and obviously we'll be talking about the rates and all that good stuff and loads or load boards. As I said, we'll be sitting here for about 2 to 3 hours talking. Hey, if you really like, you can, do your stuff and then you can come back. Obviously, we'll be here and talking because I have a lot of stuff to share with you. So let me pull this real quick. Market is going down and down day by day. It's tough to book good loads. Yes, it's tough to book good loads if you're referring to, let's say, maybe you're using load boards. So before we get into this point, please think about, what if you can book loads not using load boards? Just for now, just this question in mind, just think about this. You're looking at the load boards and you think, like, day by day rates going down and it's tough, and then I can't book loads. Yeah, well, because you're looking at the spot market, right? Meaning you booking loads, I'm assuming specifically using load boards like Truck Stop, 123 Load Board, or DAT. So, and I have a the conversation point with this guy. Actually, we were talking about the, like, in general freight, he said, this is relates to your question. And in general freight, he said, same thing. A lot of people struggling right now. They can't book loads. And same thing with the car hauling. Although his last 2 to 3 weeks, kind of there was a peak, but then this tariffs, whatnot, and again, it's decreasing. That's what he said. And I said, okay, well, tell me this. When last time you went to a shopping mall, let's say, you went to the mall and you're interested in buying something. He said about 2-3 days ago. And I said, okay, so you were interested in buying obviously something, or just, entertaining yourself, go have a coffee, just hang around with people, whatever, and what have you. So he said, no, I was looking for, flip-flops and t-shirts. And then I was looking to, buying a watch, let's say. So, and I said, when you went, let's say 2-3 days ago into the mall and you want to buy something, right? You wanted to buy something. Like, how did that experience went, or go? So did you find what you were looking for, flip-flops and t-shirts? And he said, yeah, I didn't buy like a watch. I'm not going to invest right now, but then I'll come back. But then, yeah, I found flip-flops and, the t-shirt, whatever. He liked it. He bought, I don't know, pair of flip-flops and then a couple pair of whatever, the t-shirts. So he spent some money. And I said, listen, you went to the mall knowing that what you're looking for will be there 100%. And he said, well, yeah. So it's a mall, flip-flops will be there and t-shirts will be there. Like, you can pick whatever, the color, the size, different brands. Well, just hold on. And let's talk about this. Knowing that you just said that, every day the market is crashing, whatever, the, tariffs, the economy is crashing, the recession, whatnot. But then for some strange reasons, you're not thinking about the bad economy, but you're thinking that you want to buy something, and you know that when you go to the mall and it will be available. And it's like, yeah, well, why not? A lot of stuff on, at the mall, you can buy stuff. And said, you actually bought it. I said, yes, I bought it. You spent how much? Let's say $500, right? And I said, very interesting. So when you went and looked, or you went into the, let's say, store, whatever the brand is or was, and you looked at the flip flops and then t-shirts, you bought it. But then what about the shelves? Those shelves were empty or full of stuff? And said, full of stuff. Okay. That means trucking is moving, right? So now that means economy is not that bad. You actually bought something. And the interesting thing here is that you had the money to spend on stuff. That means economy is not that bad. And then what about, like, how many people you saw when you were driving down to this mall, whatever? And then how many trucks have you seen? You said, well, a lot of trucks out there. Okay, they're moving. I'm not saying that they're profitable, but they're moving. They're making money, right? At least they're staying in the business. Okay, and I said, what about, like, in the mall? Like, how many people were out there buying stuff or just hanging out? He said, man, I don't know, a lot of people. So that means you went into the mall and you like, it's like ghost town. Like nobody's there except you. No, there were a lot of people shopping around. Like, and actually, like never before. It's like I was there, and then there are a lot of people buying stuff with the bags on their hands. They're spending money. That means economy is still good, right? If its economy is really bad, as we say, day by day, it's tough, it's rough, or whatever. People spending hundreds of thousands of dollars each month, right? Going buying stuff, cars, equipment, houses, whatever. Even though right now the rate is, meaning the rate for buying, or let's say buying a house or buying a car, for example. One of my friends bought the car. Well, it's a used car, and said, man, it's crazy. And I have about 780, what is it? The credit score he has, right? Good experience, whatever, good history. But he said they were quoting me on like 11.80 buying a car. And that's crazy. I never seen this. And I'm talking to this guy, and he says, man, yeah, I bought these 5, auto transport, like these car haulers. I bought 5 of these, and averaging about, I don't know, 9.7 or 10, percent. See, just think about this. Even the rates are high, buying a money, let's say, if that makes sense, right? We buying equipment. We used to buy, let's say, 6-7%. Now is almost doubled, right? 11, 12. Some carriers are saying that, hey, I bought the truck and trailer, and it's like 12 points, like almost 13%. It's crazy. So let me pull this real quick, and while I'm talking, I will be pulling these comments, and then we'll go talk about this. Brokers have become really shameless. They're making a lot of money, but only from clients, but from us too. Okay, Lado, I have a question. So I'm assuming you're a carrier, right? Maybe you're dispatcher / carriers or carrier, or specifically, this live. I really want to talk about the carrier, right? The trucking and the carrier more specifically. So, well, the reason why I say this is because it relates. Why? Because if you're a carrier, you're obviously dispatching. And if you're a dispatcher, you're in trucking, obviously you're looking for carriers, or dispatching loads for carriers. So brokers become really shameless. Okay, let's say I agree with you. Let's say that, hey, brokers making the money, but then carriers don't make money, then I have a question for you. What's stopping you going directly as a carrier, not as a dispatcher, as a carrier working directly with the shipper? Like, to me, imagine this. You as a carrier, you have your MC, you have your DOT, you have your active insurance that you pay a lot of money, you pay a lot of, let's say you have a lot of expenses. You're paying for the truck, paying for the trailer, maybe you have an office, you're paying for the drivers and all the expenses. Then why you think that you rely on a broker? Like, this broker doesn't have an equipment, no insurance whatsoever, and then the only thing he knows is the sales and marketing. He goes and attracts the carriers and connects you in with his shippers, and he makes the money that way. So why not working directly with shippers? Well, maybe you might say something like, well, carriers should have, let's say, 50 or more trucks. Okay, so I'm also looking at the comments here. Just think about, on Thursday, I don't know if you watched that, the live. I said the brokers don't even want to post loads now. Remember, we talked about the private network, that they really wanted to share their loads with their list of trusted, well-vetted carriers, and they're not even posting those loads. And imagine, in about, let's say, within this, I don't know, the 5 years time frame, brokers, it's like load boards. What if load boards will disappear? Like, let's say the truck stop 123 load board in DAT within 5 years, then keep up with the demand or whatever, and then they just disappear. The reason why I say this, brokers now more want this grip or the control of the business. Why? Well, a lot of things happening. If you're in a business, you may know this, that when you look at the load on a load book right now you're thinking, I don't know, twice. Like, you want to, when you look at the load, it could be a fake load, it could be a double broker load, right? 5 years ago, let's say 7 years ago, double broking was an issue, big issue, yes, but it wasn't like, now it's even bigger, right? When you look at the load boards, now like 80% of the time, you think about, like, is the legit load that posted by a broker? What if it's double brokered, triple brokered, whatever, right? So just think about this. What if no more DAT, no more truck stop, no more 123 load board, I don't know, 2030, for example? Most brokers and most of the mega brokerage companies like C.H. Robinson, the 2KL, the Landstar, whatnot, they have their own load boards, right? They might be relying on a small portion of loads that left off, let's say, loads they're posting on the these load boards like truck stop and the DAT and 123 load board. I really want to share this. This is my humble opinion. I think load boards will become, in the future, I don't know, just the TMS that brokers will be using. And obviously these load boards like truck stop, DAT, and 123 load board, they designed first having in mind the brokers. That's it, right? And then you're using a broker's tool and you're complaining, like saying, hey, they're becoming shameless, they do this and X, Y, and Z, they make the money, but not us, right? So you're a trucking company, your number one carrier, your number one customer is a shipper, right? So obviously, as I said, you're thinking about, maybe, well, in order to have a shipper, I must have 50 plus trucks. That absolutely not. Like, let me say this, if you guys have questions, please let me know. Let's say a small construction supplier let's say you're in North Carolina, in your city, he doesn't care how many trucks you have. He doesn't care if you have a 5 trucks. He doesn't care if you have a 500 trucks. Then the only thing he cares about is, can you deliver on time? Obviously, with no excuses. Can I trust you? That's all. So if you are a small carrier, if you have, let's say, 5 trucks, maybe you have 10 trucks, why you think that you should attract these mega shippers that shipping, let's say, hundreds of thousands of loads per month? Like, you, if you can't keep up the demand, why are you looking for these shippers? Why you think you must have a like 50 trucks or more to attract a shipper? Although in the United States, most of the trucking companies, they're small carriers, maybe 5 trucks, averaging maybe 7 trucks. Just think about less than 10 trucks. Okay. So if you are a carrier, just why don't you go out and then attract carriers? I mean, the shippers as your customer. Do you know your equipment? So if you know your equipment, then why don't, if you are in the flatbed, why don't you, let's say if you are in North Carolina, why don't you attract these small construction, whatever, or equipment rental shops or whatever, or distribution centers or warehouses? Why don't you just go there and say, hey, I have X, Y, and Z equipment and I want to move stuff, your stuff, right? Like, how many of those calls you made? How many of the outreaches you did? I'm assuming maybe none. Just saying, right? So let's see. Let me take this. Then how can we find shippers? Well, there you go. That's a great question. We'll go into this and we'll talk about this. So I'll come back to your question. What are the top 3 mistakes new carriers, excuse me, keep making? Oh, awesome. Great question. Thank you. Road Savvy, thank you so much. Thank you for this question. I'll come back to this. But brother, it's hard to find direct shippers. And see, it's hard to find direct shippers. Think about this. For dispatchers, it's very hard to find carriers. Don't you agree? Brother, it's very hard to find carriers. I'm a dispatcher. I've been in business for 5 years. I have hard time finding carriers. And I have my students, let's say, they're finding, carriers right and left. They can't keep up with the demand that comes from the carriers. To me, it's like, I think there is a missing link. The missing link, I think, is that the system. Meaning, do you have the sales process? So if you say, hey brother, it's very hard to find direct shippers, and know this, last maybe, I don't know, couple of years, now shippers more inclined towards working with the small carriers, right? There are a lot of reasons. Obviously, you can do your own research and see why that is, but then let's focus on how to find direct shippers. If you just sitting in your office and just making, cold calling, and they're just rejecting you right and left, obviously maybe you're doing something wrong. Like, what am I doing something wrong? Okay, there is actually this, real life scenario. One of my friends said that, hey, like, he has a 12 trucks. He is in the refrigerated market. And I said, okay, well, I mean the flatbed market. And I said, okay, let's schedule a call and then let's do this consultation and see how that goes. And he's like, he has 12 trucks. He is in a flatbed market and he's not making money. Not making money, it's kind of objective. It's why? Well, not making money, that means, are you like making money but it's not enough? Are you breaking even, right? Or like you're negative. Okay, so if you're negative, it's okay to be negative in the trucking industry, but then for how long? Can you stay for about 3 to 4 months or 6 months negative and then obviously be profitable again, right? So do you have that cushion to, like my friend, right? So he's pulling from saving account and then putting back money into the business. Like, let's talk about the getting the direct shippers. Do you, and we talked about this, 12 trucks. And I said, okay, how many calls you did in the last 7 days? And he's like, oh man, I did a lot. I said, a lot is not a number. But then let's be clear. I'm not talking about the brokers you're calling every single day. I'm talking about the shippers, right? And shippers, I mean, you guys understand that I'm talking about the regional sales manager or the owner or the CEO or the guy who's really helping you to connect with the load that they have. Okay, let's be clear. So, how many? And he said, man, I've been in business last, I don't know, 15 years. I never called a shipper directly. Okay, could that be a reason that you're not making money? Well, we used to make money. Okay, we're not talking about that you used to make money, but then you're not making money right now. Then let's, understand the situation. Why? Why not? So I said, how many calls? You said zero, absolutely not. And I said, why not? Well, because the business that he has built for himself is around the load board, meaning broker dependency. I'm like, have you, like, when you sat down and said, I want to start my trucking business, have you ever thought about what if I'm invested, let's say 100K, 200K, and tomorrow load board disappeared, like regulations, shut down the load boards. 1, 2, 3 load board, the truck stop, DAT, close them out. That's it. Go out of business. The new regulation, right? A lot of regulations happen. Like you guys see, law is changing, right? Imagine that. Is it possible? The probability is happening, it's not high, but the probability is still there. It could happen that it will disappear, right? Nobody, imagine that there will be electronic logging devices. Nobody, thought about this, right? Hours of operations, whatever. So coming back to this question, I said, okay, so you never called. And then there's another scenario that the guy has about 6 trucks. He is in the refrigerate market. And we're having this conversation. Obviously, this is consultation that I have with him. And I said, like, okay, how many calls you made? So this guy knows that, hey, I want to talk to shippers, but then keep these brokers in mind, obviously, for backhaul, whatever. And he's calling these shippers, and we have the conversation and we're talking about the numbers. And I said, in the last, let's say 7 days, how many direct shippers you called? And he said, well, a lot. Okay, and again, a lot is not a number. Like, I need exact number. How many calls you made? He said 500. Okay, 500 calls. Okay, 500 calls in the last 7 days. He said, yes, I'm very interested in one particular question. Just bear with me. Very, very important. And I said, you made 500 calls. Out of those 500 calls, I mean, you're calling a person who will give you the direct shippers, let's say, what the contract that you're looking for. He said, yes. Okay, 500 calls. Out of 500 calls, how many of those contacts actually pick up the phone and said, hello? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is how you treat your business? You have about 6 trucks. You have employees, you have dispatchers, you have drivers, they have families, they have life, and you're like, I don't know, and you wanted to like grow your fleet into 500 of trucks. And he's like, man, probably I would say 50% of those people said hello. And I said, okay, out of those 50%, that means 250 people, your contact, said hello. How many of those people, 250, interested in working with you? And he said, man, and again, I think about, I don't know, 50 carriers. Okay, shippers. Okay, 50 contacts out of a 250. Most of them, they said, like 200 people said, disappear. I don't want to talk to you. Don't call me anymore. Rejection, rejection, rejection. And like 50 people said, oh, might be, right? We can do business together. Okay, out of those 50 people, see where we're going with this? Out of those 50 people, like how many people are actually interested in giving you the load? Meaning, hey, send me the proposal, let me look at it, and then I will give you the contract, for example, right? And I said, man, be honest with you, I think it's like about 5 shippers said, yes, send me the proposal, what you have in mind. And I said, okay, out of those 5 shippers, and by the way, these are the regional small shippers, okay? Not the big whatever shippers that you have in mind. These people have loads, let's say, okay? Consistent load, by the way. So, and he said, out of those 5 shippers, only 2 people really interested in working with me. One, if I'm not mistaken, moving, I think, custom was trailers or something like that, small carriers. I mean, small, what is it, trailers. And that was one of them. And I can't remember the other one. And he said, those are the two who are interested, we're moving the parts, whatnot. And these people interested. And I'm like, well, you are in the refrigerated market. And these people moving trailer parts like doesn't make any sense. Like, why? And it's like, yeah, I thought about this, but then I didn't send the proposal to these people. And I'm like, okay, now the $1,000,000 question: where did you get 500 contact list or a list of shippers? He said, man, be honest with you, I bought it. I said, you bought it? Okay, you bought from somebody this list of these so-called shippers, and you know that you are in the refrigerated market. You're looking for, I don't know, frozen strawberries, yogurt, ice cream, like, I don't know, meat products or something like that. And you know that you will be moving this stuff, but then for some reason you just spend, I don't know how much money you spend on this. It's not an even investment. And you bought the list and you start calling these people. And no wonder 500 people, none of those people matched, and none of those people working with you, and you don't have the business that you want. And it's like, okay, then what am I doing wrong? Like, what should I do then? Well, instead of you knocking their doors, like, they should knock your doors. Why? Well, why is that? Well, because they need help. They Let's say if you're in the refrigerated market, you're looking for ice cream, right? They're shippers making ice cream and sending all across the country, right? So then these are the regional small shippers, and they have thousands of loads for you. And then they're interested in working with small carriers like you, 6 trucks, 10 trucks, or something like that, but not 50 trucks. Okay. So then the only thing is missing here, the understanding, the mindset. You're not knocking their doors saying, hey, I want to work with you. Although it's possible, you can definitely do that. But then what if they're knocking your doors saying, hey, we realize that you are in Southeast area. Let's say you are in Florida. Let's say you are in North Carolina. We have the shop in North Carolina. We do, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of loads each month. And then we prefer working with small carriers like you. Would you be interested in talking about the business? Right. And he said, well, that's awesome. How am I going to do that? Well, that's what you're missing. You're missing this sales process. If you don't have a sales process, if people not knocking your doors, then obviously you don't have a business. You're obviously knocking their doors, and then this rejection happening. And most people, what I realized over the, I don't know, last 15, 20 years, what I realized is that people going into like, this is the easiest way to do business. For example, if I wanted to start my trucking business, I don't even think about load boards. Like, I want to start my trucking company, and I'm thinking about starting. Well, I'm planning actually starting my trucking company, but I'm not even considering using, let's say, the central dispatch. I'm interested in car hauling business, and there is a business model, but then I'm like, I'm not interested in working with central dispatch. Why? Well, it's all trash on central dispatch right now. Not double brokering, triple brokering, quadruple brokering, whatnot. It's mess, right? You book a load and then you realize it's just, I don't know. I'm not going into details, but then, hey, I'm not going to use central dispatch, although is the number one tool in car hauling business for those people who are moving cars. The central dispatch is the tool. Like, if you're going into general freight, DAT, right? DAT Solutions, or DAT1, is the number one platform to use in general freight, right? More specifically, drive-in, refrigerated market, and obviously flatbed market. Those are the three main. And then obviously the second, this is, I don't have the research to share with you, but then based on my experience, truck stop comes next to the DAT, and obviously the 123 load board and others, but I don't use others. But then these are the three main load boards, right? So now, it's hard to find direct shippers. I agree with you. But do you have the sales process to actually those people in your area knocking your doors and saying, hey, we want to work with you, we have the freight? So if you think that this is not possible, then obviously I think that's the main reason why you say it's hard to find shippers. Okay. So then, carriers, you guys must have the sales process, right? To attract. And we can talk about the sales process. If you guys have questions, please let me know about the sales process. We can talk about the sales process. It's basically there is a stranger out there, don't know anything about your business. Now they know something about your business. They want to do business with you, and they're now in business with you, right? So hope that helps. And again, it's hard to find direct shippers. To me, with the marketing, experience and sales experience, this is what I can see, that you don't have the sales process, right? So if you have, let's talk about those. If you have the sales process and it's not working well, then obviously there's something missing that we can talk about here. Now, so and we had a great questions like, what are the top 3 mistakes new carriers make? We'll come back to those. When the market slows down, what are the first 2 to 3 moves a smart carrier should make? Let's define smart carrier then, right? Smart carrier. Who's this person? A smart carrier, like there's obviously an owner, right? So when the market slows down, meaning spot market, is like, or contracted market, like are we talking about direct shippers, or are we talking about like booking loads, or this kit? Let's say there's an ABC trucking LLC and then market slows down, right? And based on what, like, are we booking loads for this carrier off of a load board? Most carriers obviously book loads off of a load board, right? So if they do, obviously now, like I've been saying this, I don't know, last 45 minutes, that these guys must work, or smart carriers, first thing first, they must have a business. Let's say that way. Let me take back and say this. The reason why I say this is most carriers, they don't have business, period. Why not? Well, because let's say if you're a dispatcher, and if you don't have a carrier, are you really in business? Like, you don't have customers. If you don't have customers, you don't have a business. You have a hobby. Don't you agree? Like, no business can survive without a customer. And most carriers out there, including myself when I was a carrier, I'm guilty. I thought my customer is my brokers. Although they can help me survive in the game, but think about brokers from this point on, they're not the brokers. Think in terms of, there's the salespeople. They buy the business opportunity and sell to you for a profit. Just change the perspective and see what happens. Don't call them brokers, right? Marketing agencies, salespeople, they buy the opportunity, the business opportunity that you want, and then they're selling it to you for a profit. And the only reason why they do this is because you don't know how to do the marketing and sales. So that period. So then 2 to 3 moves. Well, the smart carrier, in order to become a smart carrier, you must become a carrier first. In order to become a carrier first, you need to have a business first. So if you don't have customers, then I don't consider this trucking company it's a smart carrier or a carrier. You don't have a business if you just rely on brokers. Most of the carriers that I talk to, most of the friends and families who are in the business in trucking, and they rely on the brokers, right? They don't have direct shippers. And to me, it's like, let's talk about this, and we will talk about these moves, obviously, no problem. But then think about, we rely on these brokers, meaning the carriers, and these brokers, they don't have the equipment, they don't have the insurance, right? They have their own MC, their bonds. I'm not talking about those, right? So they're not responsible for the load, whatnot. Carriers have all the expenses, they're running the business. somehow they know how to get a shipper with no equipment, right? With no insurance that covers the actual, load, then obviously they get the direct shipper contract, they get the loads, and then they dispatching it to you. Yes, but that's what they're doing. That they're dispatching load to you, right? Think about it. So if you're that type of, let's say, a carrier, or talking about those types of carriers, obviously I don't consider those people that they are in, or they have the business. They don't have a business. They have a hobby, expensive hobby, by the way, but they don't have the business, the actual business. Why? Well, if I'm a carrier, if I don't have the direct shippers, my actual number one customer is my shipper. So if I don't have direct shippers, I don't have a business. What about brokers? Brokers are not my, customers. Although I get loads from them, I don't have a customer. I can't build a customer list. I can't build a business. I can buy more trucks. Obviously, will be very tough on me buying, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, 50 trucks and then not working with the direct shipper, right? So direct shipper, that means somebody has the load for your equipment and you have the equipment, and for some strange reasons you don't know how to get them, but then these people can do it. These people, as I said, from this point on, just consider them as a marketing agencies or a salespeople. These salespeople really good at talking to shippers. As I said on Thursday, 1 p.m. By the way, we'll be doing more, live training like these, and then you can join next week Thursday, and then obviously we'll be doing on Sunday as well. So then let me pull this real quick because it's just flashing. You're right, I don't have the sales process. There you go. Right, we just talk about this. How would you suggest to go or grow the sales process? Not to grow the sales process, you need to basically map out the sales process and you take from there. So, and we also, let me pull this so that we don't forget about the top 3 mistakes. So these salespeople really good at talking to these shippers and getting the loads and then dispatching it to you, and you have the truck and payment and managing your business in parentheses obviously, and you just rely on this guy, but then he makes a little bit of money off of you, and then you're like, man, I don't know, we need broker transparency, we need this and that, like bullshit. Well, like if you don't want to work with these people, just ignore them and just go directly to a shipper. Shipper wants to work with you. So if you can't work with the direct shipper, obviously you're missing a sales process. Well, then what is sales process? Well, sales process, there should be a process of just getting, talking to these shippers. It's not about knocking the door and saying, hey, I'm like in your area, although you can do that if you're really good at sales, marketing, right? You're just knocking the doors and you go there and you're like, hey, I'm local, and then I have, I don't know, 2 trucks, whatever, and then I want to move whatever the stuff you have for me. Okay, so, and even though if we talking about this process specifically, right, I don't recommend. There's many reasons, and we can talk about those reasons. And you go in there and then, hey, I want to work with you. Obviously, this person doesn't know anything about your business, and you don't know anything about their business, right? And just that's the missing link there, right? There's no trust, nothing like that, but there should be a process. I'll give you an example. Even nowadays, last, I don't know, maybe a couple of years, more and more, there new young generation taking over the businesses. So like even I was looking at the numbers on my YouTube channel, and I see that is about like 5 years ago, the age, the demographic that were interested in, obviously male, because it male dominated, I don't know, the industry like trucking, right? So then was about, let's say, between 40 years old and 50 years old, or let's say 45 and then 55 years old. That was the sweet spot was about like 40 years old men who are interested in trucking. Maybe this guy owns a trucking company or he's an owner operator or whatever. So now what I realized is last couple of years, specifically last 12 months on my YouTube channel, I see those numbers and I see more and more that number is dropping. Very interesting. Meaning more and more younger generation, meaning people 20 years old, 25 years old, they're interested in trucking. A lot of people talking about the trucking, a lot of people going into business saying, hey, I can teach you how to find loads. You don't need a degree or you don't need this. And then people obviously get excited. Oh, instead of studying 5-6 years, whatever. I'm not talking about that you want to become a lawyer, whatever, doctor or anything, or scientist. Do your own stuff. But then the majority of us, let's say, these people are interested in money. Good money, quick money. That's what people advertise. They don't say like, hey, the trucking business is brutally competitive. They don't say that. The trucking business is capital intensive business. It's not forgiven business or something like that, right? It's high risk, high reward type of business. But instead, what we see or hear is, make money with, this, make money with trucks, with money with box truck, hot shot, buy this, buy that, Amazon freight, relay, this, that, dispatching. And obviously, there's a hype, right? And then more and more younger generation taking over. Let's say I have one of my, friends, I know, his father for about 10 years now, but then he's been in trucking business specifically for over 40 years, right? I don't know. He worked for somebody, then he bought his truck, he became an owner operator. He's been in business, I don't know, when I was maybe 2-3 years old. Let's say that way. So, and then now, obviously, he got older, and his son, right after the school, he's like, like I don't want to do whatever to pursue his degree. He said, I want to take over your business. And now he is in charge, right? He is a CEO or owner, call it whatever you want. Now imagine this. Now if you're thinking, I want to knock these people's doors, right? These people, like younger generation, 20 years old, 25 years old, let's say 30 years old, well, let's say 20 years and 30 years old, these people, they're not interested in talking to you. Like, and most people right now, since this social media and internet changed the perspective of the business, a lot of older generation are like, just take over. Let me show you how it runs. I'll run the business on the back end, but then hey, on the front end, you will be doing the business. Okay, people will know you. You guys know the TikTok. You guys know the social media, the YouTube game, whatever. I don't, but you do. So these people take over. Like, have you considered this aspect? When you go and want to talk to these people, they don't want to talk to you. Like, it's the internet. And I say this about 3 days ago. We're sitting at the Starbucks. We're talking about, having this conversation. And I said, man, it's a seamless process. Nobody sees nobody and loads are being moved. And one of my friends get confused. What do you mean? And like, we're talking to brokers. I said, okay, you've been, give me let's say, name of one of your brokers, top brokers. And he said, okay, I have Michael, for example. And I said, you've been working with Michael for how long? And he said, for the last, I don't know, 5 years now. Okay. I said, have you seen him? And he's like, no. I was talking to him last 5 years, but I never seen his face. I'm like, you didn't even consider looking up him on the internet, let's say social media, Facebook or whatever. I said, no. It's like, he's good. He get paid and I get paid. He's okay. I'm okay. Man, I never thought about this. And I said, well, just think about it. It's a seamless process. Nobody sees nobody. Even with this AI, excuse me, now nobody sees nobody and they're operating the business. See, if you are a dispatcher, if you are a carrier looking for loads, how many of you know your brokers personally, know how they look? Probably most of the carriers will say, I don't know. The number one reason, because it's fast moving, right? It's like quick call and then book a load and then back and forth emailing. That's it, right? So driver goes and pick up the load and delivers the load, and that's it. Proof of delivery. That's it. We get paid. They get paid. That's how the business operates now. See, like the guy that I talked to, as he said, 80% of my money comes from 20% of the brokers. With this 20% of your brokers, how many of those brokers have seen? None. None. Like they dispatch, they send them a load. When I was in trucking, I had one of the guys in Metrogistics. If you guys know Metrogistics, maybe work with them. I knew a guy. He was an awesome. I was moving a lot of good cars, like expensive cars, and then I was making a lot of money. We worked with Metrogistics for about 2 years, um, exactly about like a year and 6 months. That's what we had, and then I never saw him. And he was an amazing dude, and he made me a lot of money, and obviously he made a lot of money, but then I never saw him. So the reason why I say this is now we more and more and more rely on these sales processes. Sales processes basically you have the online presence, right? Let's say you have the website, although it's not recommended. Like, to me, be honest with you, you don't need website, but what you need is the sales funnel. We talked about this. Some people obviously get confused. I'm not going into details. Look up sales funnels. Look up the customer, the sales process journey. Map out your sales process journey. So if you're not delivering value to your shippers, to your brokers, to your carriers, you're not attracting them. And one of my friends, and again, he said, well, should we find those carriers? Let's say, should we find those shippers? And I said, well, like, are you lost them or what? Like, they exist, right? You're not finding them. They're out there. Only thing you do is you attracting them, right? Imagine, it's just a quick example here. I've been talking for how long now? Let's see. We've been talking for about an hour now, right? Although we have, plenty of time to talk about, but then I have a lot of things to cover with you now. And imagine three mistakes. Give me a quick second. I do see your you kind of thought I had, but then when the question pops up, I'm just like, okay, should dispatcher go after the shippers or just deal with brokers? Man, the reason why I picked this is very important. Maybe like about 20 people watching now, very interesting. Dispatchers, it's illegal. I'm like repeatedly say this, guys, it's very, very important. If you are a dispatcher, you cannot go and talk to shippers. It's illegal. Dispatchers, your number one customer is your carrier. Although, excuse me, you can definitely, use your carrier and use your carrier's company, right? Let's say Prime Express, and using Prime Express to attract, shippers. But you as a dispatcher, you cannot do that. Why? Well, because you don't have an MC. Well, why MC? Well, because you don't have the insurance that attached to the MC. Very important to, excuse me, understand this. That what is it? Dispatchers, they can't do that. They must have broker MC. So if you want to do that, then you must have the broker MC. So then dispatchers, yes, they should deal with brokers, but then you must have carriers, right? If you wanted to attract shippers for your carriers, not for you. You're just a service provider for a carrier. You teaming up with the carrier, using his equipment, making money. Obviously, he's making money, you're making money. He's not making money, you're not making money. That's how the game is played. So, and again, if you guys have questions, please let me know. So there was a really good question. There you go, this one. Then how can we find shippers? And I think we said that we'll come back to this one. And then what are the top 3 mistakes that carriers are making? Let's stick with this. You need to become a carrier, right? And then obviously then find the shippers, and we will talk about this. I have some strategies to share with you. Now, top 3 mistakes new carriers do. Number 1, well, when we say top 3 mistakes that new carriers do, I want to just make sure that new carriers means that you are in the business, but you are less than 6 months, let's say, right, in the business. But that's called new carriers, or the newcomers that they're making these like mistakes. So we'll touch basically these 2, but I think the newcomers, Number one thing, they don't know anything about, let's say, their equipment. One thing is, just if there's a carrier, potential carrier, entrepreneur, let's say, want to go into the trucking, what he's doing is, hey, I want to buy a truck and trailer, right? And then, okay, you want to buy in truck and trailer. What type of a trailer? Oh, I don't know. People said that flatbed paying good money. Okay, did those people tell you that there are a lot of leg work, a lot of work involved being in the flatbed? I said, no, they didn't. But then they said that, they make good money. Well, I think that's the number one mistake that these newcomers keep making over and over and over again, thinking that they will be making a lot of money in trucking. That's the number one thing. Although you can make money, but if you don't know your market, your equipment, obviously you just basically um, starting a business that will destroy your life. Let's say, yeah, it happened. Happened a lot that they just go into the business, buy truck after another truck, and then they're in debt. Then they don't know the marketing, whatever the sales. They don't know the management. Now they're in trouble. A lot of carriers I've seen, and there's situations like, life can happen, like COVID, right? So as I said, I didn't know management, I didn't know sales and marketing, and then never run this type of a business, right? Buying expensive trucks, whatever, investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in the trucking business, not knowing how to, I don't know, run or manage, run this company, never run a business. So the number one mistake, newcomers, let's say, who coming into the business thinking that they will be making a lot of money, and right off the bat buying an equipment. To me, in my personal opinion, it's wrong. Like buying a truck, I did that, I failed, a lot of people failed it. And when, remember, the COVID hit, a lot of people just went out of business, right? They just gone, disappeared. So things can happen, never know. And that's the number one mistake. Then the second mistakes that these newcomers make over and over and over again, I think these are the top three mistakes that they're making. They're building their businesses around the load boards, right? Thinking that, hey, the loads are out there, here are the banks, there is a trailer, and there is a truck, and here's an insurance. Connecting the dots, easy peasy. Call this, call that, connect this, a little bit of a down payment, boom, your truck and trailer on your what is it, on your yard. So he's ready to rock and roll. I mean, it's ready to rock and roll. Then you just sit down and then looking hours and hours and looking at the load boards, nothing pops up. And there's some lows popping up, and then you're looking at those lows, you're like, man, this is trash. And okay, now putting more money to survive in this business, and like, oh, if I buy another truck, then I'll be profitable. So that leads into the third mistakes. These new carriers who are already, let's say, in the business, but bought the first truck and thinking that I want to increase the number of trucks so I can make money. Although is true, but it's also could be a tricky game. Why? It's gambling. Why? Well, let me share with you. So when you have let's say you're an owner operator, if you don't have the right strategy and you don't have the systems in place, and we talked about this, we're not going to repeat this over and over again. I know your time is valuable, but then let's talk about. So, you bought the truck, and you thinking that if I buy a second truck, I will be profitable. Then you buy a second truck. That what happened to me, and I have a lot of friends and families that happened to them. And again, you're like, man, I was making, I don't know, let's say 15K. That means net. That's the money that I, took, let's say, and put it into my bank, right? Deposit into my bank account, let's say. Now I have a second truck. In theory, I must be making double, right? Making 30,000 now. Let's say with the first truck 15K, second truck obviously makes sense logically. Now I'll be making 30,000. But then no, you're actually making less than that. I'll tell you the why. Maybe one of the reasons I'll share with you, but then you'll do more research and see why. Now, I'm making now not even 15, not even 20. I'm making now less than 10K. Okay. So then I'm thinking, like, what's happening? Okay, new truck, new driver, whatever. Then let me buy third truck. You buy third truck, you buy fourth truck. So when you have 10 trucks, you should be making, let's say, if each, let's say, truck gives you 10K, let's say, then you have 10 trucks. Now you're making $100,000 per month. That's what you're thinking. And that's what the most newcomers or new carriers making this mistake, thinking that if you increase the number of trucks, then obviously, the revenue will be increasing at the same level, right? So no, it's actually number of trucks goes that way, your potential earning goes down if you don't have the systems in place, if you don't have the shippers, the direct lane or whatnot. Now, the number one reason why this happening is because the management. You're thinking if you can't manage one truck, how on earth do you think that you will be able to manage two trucks? This is again the management problem comes in. They don't know how to manage their businesses and they start failing. Oh, the number of trucks in their minds logically makes sense that it will be making more money, although it should be that way. But obviously, the percentage is not the same as you think. That means if I have 100% growth, then I should have 100% growth in scaling my business and earning potential. Doesn't match that way, right? Think about maybe it's an 80-20 principle. And again, so let's say if you have if you have 10 trucks, instead of making, let's say 100K, you should be making about like 50K or 60K or something like that. The reason why it should be that way, right, is because obviously some trucks can break down, accidents can happen. Then your trucks will be sitting in a yard, and then these trucks will be helping you to stay in the business. And by the way, this is the number one reason why Ryder gives you 5 trucks. And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this for those people who are interested in going into trucking, consider renting. And as I said, that's one of the reasons why I don't recommend buying a truck. Or one of the mistakes that they're making, they're thinking that, hey, I want to buy an equipment. Don't do that, right? Don't buy an equipment. I made that mistake. Please don't make that mistake. So please don't advertise. We're just having fun. I don't want to ban you. I just want people just have some fun, engage. But then, hey, I do this, and then they reach out to me, and then I do. Don't do that. Don't sell to people. We're just having fun here, please. So I just want to make sure that you're having fun, and then you're learning something, and then you can sell your stuff somewhere else. Please don't do that. So now, in buying a truck, don't do that. Instead, Ryder has a good program. If you didn't know about this, please go ahead and do the research. They are giving you or renting you the trucks, right? So, and we're not going into details talking about how they do, why they do, should you buy, should you not. I'm just sharing ideas with you, right? So, instead of buying trucks, now they have the business model. They're not giving you, as far as I know, based on my research and based on what I know, they're not giving you just one truck. I think the starting point is 5 trucks. And again, the reason why they do this is because when they're renting you those trucks, they're like, okay, if 2 trucks can't make money, these 3 trucks will be making money and you'll be staying in business. Or at least 2 trucks will be making money, okay, while you're getting a driver and then up and running. And then these 3 trucks are sitting, but then you're not making good money. But then at least we as a Ryder, as a company, we get paid, okay? So that's the business model behind giving you the 5 trucks in advance. They're not letting you buy or rent 1 truck, okay? So just think about it's very smart approach when they do this is they want to make sure that, hey, and by the way, by doing that at the same time, maybe you have this question, maybe you're thinking like, man, what if I can't manage those 5 trucks? And by doing that, raising the bar, this is where actually they're getting rid of those people who can't do or run the business. They don't want to deal with those people. And see, that's the strategy. Just think about it. Logically makes sense. What they're attracting people, investors or entrepreneurs. They're really into the business. Maybe they have experience, what is it, in trucking. For example, I have experience in trucking, and I won't have any problems having 5 trucks and starting with 5 trucks. That's how they target or niche down and have a specific niche or specific customer segment they're targeting. Very smart way if you think about this business model, right? Eliminating, I don't know, 90-80% of the people put on, he doesn't have the trucking experience, okay, doesn't value renting, right, prefer buying instead of renting, and they just get rid of this. And then at the same time, it's kind of a security for them, right? Why? Well, because they give you 5 trucks, 3 trucks running, 2 trucks not running. You're kind of balancing, and they get paid and you get paid and you stay in business. They'll be supporting you, obviously, and you can grow that way. So, and hope that makes sense, that these are the 3 top mistakes, at least I know. And this is how these newcomers make mistakes, and made a lot of mistakes, by the way. Not three, many mistakes that I made. One of them is, well, I think in trucking, everything boils down to cost per mile, right? CPM. Everything boils down to CPM. If you are a carrier, in we'll talk about the dispatchers, and if you're a dispatcher, you're looking for a carrier, guys. If you don't know the cost per mile for a carrier, don't even call this carrier, right? So if you are a carrier, if you're planning to attract, let's say, direct shippers, and by the way, we'll be coming back to how to get direct shippers. I'm still thinking about this, obviously. I don't think that I forgot about this. I'll come back to this one. So these, like the carriers, obviously, so we talked about this. Okay, I know. We'll go into this. So remember this. Are we running out of time? Well, we're good with the time. Getting the direct shippers for your carriers, and this relates to the cost per mile. This is why I wanted to kind of touch this, and then we talked about the cost per mile. If you wanted to get a, let's say, direct shipper, and you don't know your numbers, how do you think you will go and, let's say, convince this potential shipper to work with you if you don't know your cost per mile? Like, let's say back in 2020, 2015, 2016, I had about 4 trucks. I was in the flatbed industry. So I didn't know anything about the cost per mile. I knew that there is a number, very important, and people keep saying this, but then I just ignored it, right? Even banks were asking, okay, so what's your cost per mile? How do you think, like, growing this business? Or blah, blah, blah. But then I was ignoring. I was more into, like, hey, I want to make the gross revenue, whatever that number might be. Let's say 30,000, 35,000 back then. Let's say 40,000 for a flatbed. I was more focused on that number, not even focusing and not even considering the cost per mile. But then I realized that there is a average, or there's a per truck rate per mile. I mean, cost per mile. And then obviously, logically, it makes sense. Every single truck, driving, mile by mile, and then there's a cost involved. And then there is an average cost per mile for your trucking. Meaning, I had 4 trucks, and one of my trucks, let's say truck number 116, the cost per mile was, let's say, $1.50. So now we have $1.50, and then second truck, I have, let's say, $1.20. Okay, the third truck is paid off. Maybe it's 50 cents a mile. That's the cost per mile. And then one of them is the brand new. Then, I have a lot of expenses. Then insurance is much expensive. Then trailer and truck is expensive. It's brand new. Then this truck has, let's say, $1.80. So I'm adding $1.80, $1.50, and 50 cents and $1.20, add them up. And then I divided number of trucks, and I have, let's say, 4 trucks. Now, the cost per mile, the average cost per mile for my trucking should have been, let's say, $1.50, right? So that's how much is cost. Well, that number changed. That was back in 2015, 2016. This number could be right now, I don't know, $2, maybe even $2.50, right? Just saying, okay? Just for sake of the, what is it? For example purposes. So now you have this number in mind. When you even hire a dispatcher, let's say you want to grow your fleet, you're not talking about every single time when your dispatcher looks for a load, and you're not letting him calling you to approve the load. Why? Well, because he knows that your average cost per mile is $1.50. So if he can make $1 on top of the cost per mile, then you're profitable, right? So that means if he's making, let's say, $1.50, and then he's making you $2.50, averaging that number, then obviously you're making money, right? You're not looking at the $2.50. But now obviously things change. Now maybe you're looking for $3.50 averaging, but then it's very, very important. Then the important number comes in is the rate per mile. Rate per mile, and the cost per mile is, as the name implies, is costing you for every mile that you drive for a truck. So if you're an owner operator, excuse me, and if you have one truck, you have to know your equipment, obviously, excuse me, and then this happens when you have. I do have water. Just give me a quick second. So if you have, let's say, one truck, you need to know your equipment, top to bottom, bottom to top, right? Left to right, right to left. You need to know everything about your business. The numbers are very, very important. So then I realized, obviously, rate per mile plays a huge role. And for dispatchers, if you have a carrier, if you don't know the cost per mile, how on earth do you think that you will be booking good loads for this carrier? Like, you need to know the cost per mile so that you can focus on the rate per mile. A lot of people focusing on the rate per mile, forgetting about the cost per mile. Very, very important. Then the rate per mile, what I realized, obviously, people, meaning carriers, more specifically, this is where I was dispatching other people's trucks. This is what I realized: people focusing on rate per mile, while I was focusing on cost per mile. How much is costing you? Why? Well, because I have a background in optimizing your trucking company. Okay, let's talk about the numbers you have. Let's see if we can, decrease. Instead, it's very like, if you watching this, and if you want to just, like, this is your epiphany, this is your aha moment. Instead of focusing on rate per mile, increasing the rate per mile, let's say $2.50. Now you want to make $2.80, right? That's what you're trying to do. Instead of doing that, focus on the cost per mile and focus on decreasing the cost per mile, right? So now it's basically optimizing the business, right? Get rid of the extra, whatever the expenses you might have, and then optimizing it for the fuel, and then obviously expenses decrease, your cost per mile decreases. Now that means you're making extra 20-30 cents per mile. So instead of asking for a broker's give me more, it's already given. It's in the business. I talk to many carriers, and be honest with you, there is even popping these services, optimizing carriers. There are a lot of consulting firms popping like mushrooms, like a lot. Just go there and do research online. You will see these are the people know something about business, like optimizing and systematizing the business. They just go and work with carriers and like, hey, if you have this fuel cost, do this. If you have this, decrease that. Like, instead of buying this, buy this. Your insurance, consider this. Add this, and your cost will decrease. And this is how they're winning. Obviously, it's like, imagine you have a life right now and I have a life, and then we're making money somewhere, let's say, right? So instead of like focusing on making more money, just focus on your expenses. You will see that you can save about like $300 to $500 per month. I'm like dead serious. Just look at those numbers. I'm like, man, I'm not watching this. I'm not doing this. I have this subscription, and I have like $4 a month subscription. You just add them up. You will see that you're making about $500 more. Instead, if you're making like $3, what is it? $4,000, and you planning to talk to your, let's say, boss, if you're 9 to 5, and you're thinking like, getting your salary up to 4,500, right? You just like look at your expenses. You will see. When I looked at my business, like in my teaching business, when I looked at the numbers, that like I don't use this software, I don't use this software, I don't use this service, and then extra $1,000 added, whatever the monthly revenue that I have, for example. Very important. So coming back, rate per mile is like, now you're thinking about what is your daily rate per mile? Yes, I know it's complicated. And again, as I said at the beginning, and I've been saying this many times, trucking is not for everybody. Just keep that in mind. Trucking is not for everybody. It's all about numbers. So like averaging, like how much I'm averaging like per day, that this rate per mile, like what's the average rate per week that I'm averaging, like what is the average rate per mile I'm doing in my business. So from that, knowing cost per mile, rate per mile, this is where thinking about like working with direct shippers, right? So direct shippers, it's like, how can I get the direct shippers? How can I get the direct shippers? What if I give you the direct shippers? Like I'm into import export business, let's say I'm working with a lot of shippers, then these people looking for you, I'm like, let me connect you with these shippers. In like working with shippers, you need two things. Let me say this and then we'll continue. Trust and execution. Like shipper must have a trust first and rely on you that you can execute, meaning you can deliver. You keep the promises and you can deliver what promised to these people, right? So what if I help you with the trust part, right? I mean, into import export business, I know these people. Let me talk to them. Okay, can you work with these guys? I know these people. I personally, teach these people. They're my mentorship or this program or that program. Just giving an example. So we got that, but then what about the execution? Can you deliver? I don't know, right? And if you don't know your rate per mile, you don't know cost per mile, how on earth do you think that we're going to negotiate with these people? And these people like, okay, tell me your proposal. Like, you're proposing something, right? Then what is it? What are your numbers? How are you coding, right? So you need to know your numbers first in order to get shippers. And again, getting shippers, it's first, before even talking about getting a shippers, although we can share this with you, do you know your equipment? Meaning there are a lot of people going into the box truck. Okay, I don't need a CDL. The equipment is, I can rent from Enterprise. I can rent from Penske. I can, rent a car from Ryder, whatever. You guys know the system, right? And then they go in and they rent. It's very easy. Having an LLC, it's like, I don't know, easy peasy, right? Piece of cake. $100, $200, that's it. You have an LLC. You think you're in a business. And obviously, you're not in business. You don't know your equipment well. And then you thought that, hey, relying on DAT, relying on truck stop, you thought that, hey, I can book loads. But then you have the subscription, you have, let's say, your MC, whatever, and an active insurance, and they give you the access to the load board. And you realize that these companies, DAT and truck stop more specifically, they don't right fit for you. They don't, although there some loads are being posted by brokers that you can book those loads, but they're not designed for you. Now you're like, oh my god, so what am I doing? So I do have expenses, I need to move trucks. But hey, think about the business model first. You're thinking about buying trucks and trailers, the equipment, because it's easy. Why? Because people want to sell. People want to give you the rent. Why? Well, because they want to make money, but everything on your shoulders. Like now you have the equipment and you don't know anything about the equipment, but you thought that, oh, okay, I can move. You heard one of your friends making good money with box truck. Maybe he knows the management, he knows his numbers, he knows the marketing and sales, he knows how to track shippers, but you don't. You thought you rely on brokers, then now brokers right and left, they're going out of business. They don't have loads. What's next? You screwed. You have, I don't know, 2-3 box truck. Now you're trying to sell them. Now you're like, man, now your life even got worse. Like you don't have money to survive, right? So you don't have to be in that situation. But then the right way to do this is because, I mean, you going into business, but you need to know the market that you're going into. You're moving household goods, let's say. You're moving palletized freight. Can you find those loads? I mean, like day in, day out. Load boards? No, you can't. There's a specific load board out there for box truck. Yes, maybe. I don't know. I think Selectus, people say, just keep saying, but then a lot of 90% of the people will say that, well, it sucks, it's expensive, it's this, it's that. They now rely on, dispatchers. A lot of box truck owners, reach out to me via TikTok, YouTube, email, saying, hey, Kamal, you train dispatchers, do you have box truck? And obviously I connect with people, but hey, you need to know your market. Okay, so let me say this: if you're on a box truck, let's start from there, right? If you're on a box truck and you don't have the right tools, meaning the load board, what you need to do is to understand that you are in the moving, let's say, furniture, let's say that way. Okay, you are in the business moving furniture. That's what it is. Palletized freight. Then what are you thinking? You're thinking Home Depot, you're thinking in terms of furniture, rooms to go, Ashley distribution centers, all those people, all those shippers that comes to your mind. Just start work. Use ChatGPT, for God's sake. It's there. We have the free version, we have the paid version. It's, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks a month. You just use that and do your own research before going into business, right? Now, attracting, it goes into like two ways. It's offline and online. A lot of people used to do offline. This is where you just sit into your car, go to Ashland Distribution Center, and then go there and say, hey, I want to talk to you, a regional direct shipper manager or whatever, or sales manager or this or that. And you start talking to those people and you're like, okay, can you send me an email with your proposal? Can you send how many equipment you have, your equipment type? Now you don't know anything about your equipment. You don't know what to write. You don't know how to, draft an email. It's like you screwed, like, that's it. I'm like rely on the load board. And it's just, this cycle it's just like cycles, every time you tried to do something, you don't know, you just give up easily. And then again, I want to give up. This business is not for me. Box truck sucks, or box truck business sucks, or something like that. But then a lot of people making really good money, right? Have you watched that video? There is a guy who was knocking the door for Home Depot. I think he said the last 2 years, and then recently, somebody called him, and now I think he has about like 50, or can't remember. I think he has less than 100, but then I think close to 50 or 60 box truck. So he just, one contract changed his life. But he was knocking for 2 years. For 2 years, knocking the door. Okay. So now is like attracting the two ways, right? One is basically go there and knocking doors. And then I think the best way to do it right now is obviously you or attracting those people. Imagine this salesperson that you want to talk to. And let's say it's an Ashley distribution center. Let's say, and then also one of my friends, he got the contract from Floor and Decor. There you go. Yeah, palletized freight. That's what he moves. Oh, I think he has a Sprinter event. There you go. Yeah. So he makes good money. But then the process is the same, right? Then he's talking to this regional manager, whatever. There is a guy. There's a person, let's say, that does all this. I'm making very serious. Simple. Take it seriously. So there is a person. He has a desk. He has a computer, and he has a duty, right? He needs to move stuff, help Floor and Decor. If the person bought this person has a house and then he's remodeling and bought whatever, just you name it, right? Palletized freight, let's say that way. Now there's like 6 pallets, and then there are a lot of customers that buy exactly the same stuff each week, right? Hundreds of loads. And then this guy, the job of this guy or this person, the duty that he has, ship those loads, right? To deliver, actually. How? Well, they're box truck owners moving these, stuff. Okay? Very, very important. Now, instead of you calling this, let's call this person Mike, okay? Or Angela, or whatever, or Emmy. Just call this person whatever you want. And this person has a phone, okay? Just let's make it simple. Yes, she has a phone, he has a phone. This person has a phone, smartphone, whatever. She has a life, or this person has a life. Maybe TikTok, maybe Instagram, maybe websites. This person reads, this person watches YouTube, right? Now, by knowing this, what you can do now is, how am I going to attract this person to me? If she is looking for box truck owners, she's going on, literally, I'm in the import export business. Like, literally, one person showed me that this is how I do it. I go Google, on Google, and then I type small box truck owners near this zip code, or best box truck companies near this zip code. This is the person looking for box truck owners. Just literally, like, I'm interested in learning, and I'm like, okay, just show me. And that's the process. And that's the process. And what do? I'm cold calling. Like, you want to ship these. You call these people, cold calling, saying, hey, can I talk to an owner? And then there's no, you talking to them and say, hey, let's say this person's name is Jason. It's like, hey, Jason, I'm Amy. I'm working with the Floor & Decor. We are in, I don't know, in Southeast area, in this state or that state, whatever, in this city. We're local. Remember the zip code? And yeah, that's basically it. I'm not even using a script, she said. And I'm like, I'm calling these people and say, oh yeah, yes, we have 4 trucks, we have 10 trucks, we have this truck. And then the process goes from there. Now, imagine this person looking for the box truck owners. On the other hand, or on the other side, box trucks, like, how can I get direct shippers? How can I go to talk to these people? And these people are already looking for you, right? So the only missing part is raising your hand and saying, hey, I have the equipment that you're looking for. And how you're doing this is just basically presenting yourself online. When I say presenting your online, one thing maybe comes to your mind is the website. Although you can do website, but again, everything boils down to the sales process, right? Do you have a sales funnels? Do you have the sales processes? Do you do customer outreach? Do you use script? All that good stuff. Okay, so now what you do is letting those people, and again, remember we said that this person, right, Amy, and she has a phone, and well, basically she has a loads that you're looking for, right? And same thing with the broker. Let's say broker Mike, Jason, whatever, put the 2KL and this CH Robinson, whatever, and that person, that broker has a phone. And then he's interested in what? Interested in freight, interested in watching, obviously, freight, trucks, whatever. And at the same time, he has a life and he's watching YouTube videos for fun. And then for some reason, you popped up. You're showing your whatever, I don't know, your office, your equipment, you're talking. I'm like, oh, okay. And this is where the process starts, right? The sales process, the customer's journey. When first time he sees you, then what you want for this person to do, what would be the next step for this person? Hey, I want him to go to my landing page, do this, let me get his, the information. And why? Well, I want to follow up, I want to send the email, I want to do this. And this is where the importance of email list comes in. This is where you build an email list of shippers, not at the beginning of this, the live session, we said that, hey, somebody bought list of 500 contacts and start, calling, and nothing happened. So that's the number one thing, and that was the reason behind. So imagine now this person, right? Amy sees your whatever the content, whatever you're offering, whatever you're doing online, and then he sees it. Or like, okay, well, I'm looking these people day in day out on Google. Well, let me just save it, or let me just text message it, or let me do this, and goes to the landing pages. Oh, if you're looking for a box truck, if you have this and that, and then we have this, and we have this report, and we have whatever, and then she puts the information, the email. Now you have this email in your system. Now what you can do, you can reach out, right? Now you can grow this email list, and anytime you need direct shipper lane, obviously the loads, you can email these people, and then obviously get loads that way. Yes, we're not going into details like talking nitty-gritty things, but then I'm giving you the idea how you can find shippers. And again, find shippers, I think we need to replace or change or reword this instead of saying find. And again, to me, it's funny. Why? Because we didn't lost them, or we didn't lose them. They're not lost. They're out there, right? The only thing we need to do is just attract them. They're out there. Floor & Decor, about 20 miles away from me. Another Floor & Decor, maybe 50 miles away from me, right? Rooms to Go, about 6 miles away from me. Ash's distribution is about 25 miles away from me, right? So those people who are sitting in behind the computers and they have responsibility of dispatching those loads, let's say, right? And these people are online. You can definitely call them, but then instead of you knocking their doors, let them knock your doors. And that's how the game played, right? So this is how you attract shippers. This is how you attract brokers. This is how we attract carriers. And again, I did a live on Thursday. I'll just include this video somewhere and you can watch. Please watch that. A lot of people, liked it. So that's basically how you can find shippers. And again, guys, just let me know. You're getting the value out of this. You guys liking it? It's good. You have, what is it? Questions? Okay. Chad said, as a dispatcher in port container business, should I develop a relationship with broker first or should I get my carriers first? Obviously, it's the dispatching, company. Obviously, Chad has. As a dispatcher in the port container business, how you are going to build, I think it can go both ways. Obviously, building a relationship and just think in terms of like building a relationship with the broker as a dispatcher, right? So how are you going to how you are going to build a relationship with the broker if you don't have a carrier? So that's the question. And again, just we're just talking, right? So how are you going to do this? Well, you must have a carrier, right? So that you can just say you have a carrier, then obviously you're booking loads, you're building a relationship with the broker. How are you building a relationship with the broker? Delivering on time, updating this, the broker every single time that you book a load. Hey, we book a load from, let's say, from Atlanta to Houston, Texas. Using, hey, let's call him Mike. Mike, so driver left, so he'll be there tomorrow, whatever, or today at 2 p.m. Hey, Mike, he's there. He's picking up the load. Maybe there's a picture you send to him. Hey, Mike, we'll secure the load. He's in transit. He's moving. He's in Louisiana. We will deliver tomorrow in Houston, whatever. You just keep updating. And this is how you build a relationship with the broker. That's one way of doing it as a dispatcher. Carrier, same thing. Well, because carriers will be dispatching their own loads, right? So by knowing this, now you think, like you said, ports and containers. If you're moving containers, then you need specific carriers pulling those containers, right? Like think about intermodal, whatever. And then you can definitely have a list of brokers and build the email list of brokers once you get the carriers and start, obviously, by then, the trust and relationship should have been established already before getting your carrier to dispatch or get loads from these people. How? Well, delivering value to these people. For brokers, like what type of value you're talking about to deliver these brokers? Well, you need to go dig in a little bit of a research and think in terms of, and again, use ChatGPT and just like brokers are interested in sales, brokers interested in marketing, brokers interested in getting more shippers, brokers are interested in scripts, broker interested in a lot of things that you're interested. Can you deliver value? Like for about how many hours? For about almost 2 hours. Like I am delivering value. Like there's nothing to in return. We're just talking, we're sharing. I'm interested in sharing. You're interested in, learning. Obviously, this is how I deliver value to you. You're watching, you're listening, you're learning, you're asking questions, right? And how I know this? Well, Road Savvy says very useful information for us. Thank you. And I said, you're welcome. Enjoy. So same thing, your broker should say, thank you, right? If this person's, imagine that Road Savvy, right? Like there is a person behind this comment. He or she just like thought about this, saying he found or she found or this person found this information useful and actually physically started typing. What happened in this person's mind? He found it useful, excited, and said, I want to thank this person for the information. And same thing, your shippers, your carriers, your brokers should say the same thing, thanking you for the value that you bring for free, not asking anything in return. Can you do that? If you can do that, that's the win-win situation, right? So that how it goes. And again, guys, if you have questions, please let me know while we are talking about this. And again, there's an important thing about booking loads for dispatchers, for drivers. This will be absolutely amazing. Never dispatch a load. If you're a carrier, if you are a dispatcher, never book a load on a lane that you don't have at least 3 to 5 brokers that you can rely on. Let that sink in. If you're a dispatcher, if you're a carrier, never book a load or dispatch a load on a lane. Lane could be from Atlanta to Houston. Never book a load if you don't have a broker, at least 3 to 5 brokers on that specific lane. And secondly, never ever go there without knowing how many loads goes into that particular state. In our case is Texas. How many loads goes into the specific city, and how many loads going out of that city, which creates obviously the market conditions, right? That also creates a load to truck ratio. Very important. That means, in a simple way of saying this, how many loads will be available per truck. So if there is 100 trucks in Texas right now, I'm not talking about specific market like Houston, let's say Dallas or whatever. I'm just specifically talking about the state. How many loads goes into the state? How many loads goes out of the state? That creates a market condition. There is a condition now. And then what would be the load to truck ratio? That means if there's 100 trucks, how many loads available per truck? The sweet spot number is, well, according to the DAT, could be a little bit different. In my opinion, if you have about like more than 40 loads per truck, and don't think about those numbers are not accurate, universally acceptable numbers that they're saying, that's what they have on their website, right? Or applicable or acceptable or something like that. But that means it's close to exact number, right? Close to, let's say 100%. It could be like 99%, could be 98%, but still there is something to work on. Load to truck ratio is very important. How many loads available per truck? 100 trucks. If we have 40 loads for every truck in Houston, then you go there. So if you have less than that, consider going to a different state. And at the same time, very important to understand this, when you do market conditions, for example, I can share market conditions. If you guys are interested, just let me know. I have the load board. I want to see if you guys are interested in seeing that market condition. So just type and say, hey, yes, let's do that, or anything like that, or okay, or yes, and I'll show it to you how to use it and how I do it. If I were you, I'll show it to you. So if you're not interested, obviously I will just continue, but then you just let me know. So market conditions, very important. Understanding like what's happening in the particular state before you even booking that load. Very important. And again, never ever book a load if you don't have at least 3 to 5 brokers that can supply you loads coming back, or at least can help you to move the load. Chat says yes. I like to see that. Okay, cool. We can definitely do that. And so knowing the market condition, there is another. Some of you guys using 1, 2, 3 load, but let me pull that as well so that I can show you both so that you can guys learn. Okay, let me do this and let me share this with you. Okay, so start screen, DAT. Okay, this one. There you go. You guys just let me know that you see this. So I'll pull it in so that you can see it. There you go. So if you guys see market conditions, as I'm pointing up here, just let me know. Do you guys see market conditions? We're good? You just let me know. And then what we're going to do is we'll click on the market conditions, and then we will share this with you. There you go. This is the market condition. conditions. So basically, for those who don't know this, it shows you. Yes, we see. Okay, awesome. So basically, this shows you for the three markets, the major market. As you can see, if I drop down, you will see for the van, for the flatbed, for the reefer. What it does is basically shows you how many loads go into the particular state and how many loads going out of that state. It basically, this is where you toggle inbound, how many loads goes into that market and how many loads going out of that particular market. Market could be something like, let's say, Atlanta, right? Let's do that. Let's see. Okay, let me do this. And why it's not working? DAT, what's happening with you? Let's go and do, let's say, Houston and see if this, okay, this pulls. Okay, cool. Okay. But at the same time, what you can do, you can also see, you can click on the state, for example, in Georgia, and you will see, what about Atlanta market? Atlanta market is, remember we said load to truck ratio, see 4.5. And then let's do Savannah, let's say 10. Let's do Orlando, and you will see. Then let me do flap it and see numbers are changing, drastically. See that? Like 96. Let's go to, or maybe just bring a little closer. Let's do Savannah market. Now you see it's more than 308. That means there is 309 loads available for every truck that is in in Savannah right now. It doesn't mean that this is 100% exact number, but then at least you have the information that, hey, it's like you can click on this and you can learn about the market condition index. Includes searching behavior for loads and trucks and factors in seasonal trends. Very important to understand this. Exaggerated post and search behavior are removed. That means a lot of fluff, it's removed. Right now it's close to, the accurate number. And the result is accurate. See that? Why? Because it's universally applicable. There you go. It's an applicable measure of capacity, right? So basically, using this information, now you can predict: should I go to Houston? Should I go to Savannah? Should I go to South Carolina? Should I go to Orlando or whatnot? Right? So use this information. It's very, very important. Yeah, I do see this is a prior business day. This is very important to understand that, hey, what happened yesterday, right? And then it's very, very important to see that what's happening right now in that particular state. And then you also have, now you can forecast for 8 days if you want to. Let's say, I think it will be really useful for those of you who, let's say, from West Coast to come to the East Coast and you want to stay for about, I don't know, for 5 for 6 days or for a week, doing some business here and then going back to the West Coast. So very important. This is how you use it. And then I'll also show you how, if you have 1, 2, 3 load board, this is 1, 2, 3 load board. Let me share this with you. Let me remove this, and then the 1, 2, 3 load board. And by the way, the links will be below this video. You can check it out. So 1, 2, 3 load board has the same feature, called a little bit differently. It called load availability. So load availability, as name implies, it shows you availability of loads. But here is very interesting what they did. Let me see load density. So when you look at the load density, obviously these are the states. Let's look into, but again, you need to get a specific state. Let's go to density map, and then let's do, for example, Texas. If you hover over Texas, now what you see, DAT has inbound and outbound, but 1, 2, 3 load board did things a little bit differently, right? They tapped into something very important and said, listen, they're obviously outbound, 1,330 loads goes out of the Texas. And then look at this one. How many loads coming into? 2,488 loads coming into the Texas. But see this, intrastate. See that in the middle, 1,015 See that? That means how many loads are being picked up inside the Texas and delivered inside of Texas. Very important. DAT didn't have this, but then maybe there's a different way to look at this. But then, hey, see, intrastate is there. Now you don't only have how many loads leaving out of the state, how many loads coming into the state, but you also know like how many loads are staying within that particular state. If you're thinking like, what's the use of this? If you're asking that question, that means you're missing a lot of money on the table. So if you're not using these tools, and obviously these people spend, or these companies spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go and actually build this. Like if you, let me come back to this, right? And let me share this with you. Like imagine this, DAT spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to build this tool. Like imagine it's run in front of you, it gives you everything you need, and we're not even like going into nitty gritty things. That a lot of good stuff that you can do with this. It's very, very important to understand how to use this. I was in Central Asia. There is a company dispatches about 700 trucks. Yes, I'll be showing you all that with you. But in this company, obviously, when I started sharing this to you guys to use this, the head of a dispatcher guy said, well, I tried a couple of times, and then there were like 35 people like in that particular office, 35 dispatchers dispatching trucks. And he said, the head of a dispatcher said, well, he's a great guy, but then maybe he's right, but maybe not. But then he said, well, I don't think the numbers are accurate, and for that reason, we don't use it. And I said, okay, like maybe you don't understand the importance of this tool. Maybe that's the number one reason you don't use it. And you said that, hey, I don't know how to use it. Just say, I don't know how to use it. But there is a way to learn and make a lot of money with it, right? So, and then there is a dispatcher. I'm talking to him, and I said, okay, so you're dispatching loads from where to where? And he said, I'm looking for a load from Dayton, Ohio that goes to Houston, Texas, or Dallas, Texas. And I said, okay, what's the reason that you go to Texas? Why you want to do this? Well, see, this load popped up and that load popped up, and then driver said that I want to go to the Dallas, Texas. So you are booking loads based on what your driver said, or do you book a load based on the market conditions, right? So he's like, well, I think based on what my carrier says, like I want to, like if he wants to go there, I want to search loads. Okay, what if you go to not Dallas but Oklahoma? It's close to Dallas, Texas, but then has a lot of loads. What if you go to Louisiana, that has a really good potential, going there and then going out of that Louisiana, that state, and you make a lot of money, and at the same time you use the tri-hull, and now you're making really good money. It's like, oh wow, now he hooked up, he's really interested. And I have those pictures and I can share it with you. It was absolutely amazing experience. But hey, I really congratulate them. It was absolutely amazing dispatching about 700 trucks. Most of their trucks, I understand, they have company, although this company is out of the States, right? But then they have it back, in the office. And also they're dispatching for owner operators based on my understanding. So, and when I started sharing this, they're like, wow, we've been doing this, I don't know, for the last 5 years. And I just looked a couple of times and it's still confusing. That's what I said to DAT, that this tool, absolutely amazing, but obviously it's confusing for the newcomers. Maybe, but even you right now, you never dispatched a load. You're looking at this tool, it's like, what is it, right? But then this tool makes you money, but you never tapped into it. What you do, like most people do, right? Let me share this with you. What you do, you go to search loads, right? And this is how you do business. You search loads, right? And you're looking at and sitting and looking at these numbers, not understanding why these loads are being posted and why this broker posted this load, from Louisiana or whatever, from Texas to Nevada or whatever. Like, what's the reason why you want to go based on how much they pay? So you can go from Houston, for example. Let me come back to this. Let's say there is a load from Houston, Texas, goes to Orlando. It pays really good money, but then you used market conditions, and you realize that going out of the Florida, it's basically you're losing money. Maybe you can go empty, and maybe your carrier won't like it, and don't do that. Now you see, based on the current day today, right? You're looking at, yes, there are a lot of trucks, and obviously going, you know, out of the Florida, maybe you will find some loads. But again, Florida has markets like Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville. These are the markets. Look into this. For example, Jacksonville, will be, it says 100 plus, but then for some reason, numbers didn't show up. But then look at this. It's red. Red means, and again, see, this is also confusing. Red means don't go there, or red means hot in this case. Then blue means, cold. That means don't go there. Whereas the 123 load board, let me share this with you. They did a really good job. It's like, hey, it's very straightforward. If it's green, go there. If it's yellow, it's neutral. You may go, you may not. But then red, man, don't go there. Right? It's very easy to understand. Hope that helps. So let me pull this and see what Chad says. I'm going to be using 123 load board. Can you just find out about a container loads coming out of South Carolina? I don't do that. I'm not interested in containers. So if you're interested in container loads, you can definitely do that. But I never tap into that business. I'm just more of a flatbed, more into like car hauling, using DAT load boards and all that good stuff. But hey, you can definitely use this load board. And by the way, one of my students said that there are a lot of container loads in 123 load board. But I think the majority of the container loads, I think, are being posted on DAT load board. By the way, DAT is reconsidering. I share this. You can go back and watch the live that we did on Thursday. Considering to becoming dispatcher friendly. Okay, they're willing to give access to the DAT load board to dispatchers. Dispatchers meaning if you don't have MC, DOT, right, but you are a dispatcher, they know the importance of a dispatcher. They value dispatchers. The value that they bring on a table, they now know this. They tried, but then obviously a lot of bad things happened, whatever, with the DAT, and then they discontinued, and they said no more access to dispatchers. Although, if you guys remember, there was a self sign up process, right? No MC, no problem. You can have access to the DAT. Now, I don't know what would be the structure. The system. How maybe they will give you the load board specifically designed for dispatchers, right? Maybe, well, at least you'll be using the load board. And the reason why they want to do that, obviously, as I said, they know the importance. They recognize, right? The recognition is there. That's what I'm trying to say. And then obviously, carriers must make money to stay in business. If they stay in business, obviously, brokers make money, carriers make money, everybody in this business make money. Or makes money. Very important to understand this, that it's a good news. It's happening. It will be there. Your dispatchers will have access, but I don't know when. So I received an email I shared this information, as I said on Thursday, reach out to me, and DAT said, hey, we need to schedule a call, and then let's discuss this, since we, train dispatchers, and they want to know before building this product, hey, understand the pitfalls, whatever, the sales process and everything. So as we go, I'll be updating. Guys, if you have questions, please let me know. And by the way, this is a 123 load board. A link is available below this video. It's there for you. And for the if you're a dispatcher, no problem signing up with 123 load board. Is just go there and sign up. But then here's the trick. I shared this last time on my Thursday live. So then again, go back and watch. Maybe I can include the link. You can easily go there. So there is 3 different types of subscriptions. One is, let me just go there right now and I will show it to you. I do have a couple of screens here. So if I go to let's say 123 load board, right? So let's go there and I'll show you. They have different price points. Let me share this screen with you. There you go. So you see this, right? Let me take this, come back and remove this so that you can guys see it. So if I can do, there you go. Now you can see it. Now this is 1, 2, 3 load board. If you hover over pricing, let's go, and then I'll show you the trick. So what you see is fairly acceptable for everybody. 1, 2, 3 load board has 35, 59, and 79. Choose Premium Plus. The reason why is because you'll be using it for free. Meaning it says 10-day free included, but this is for carriers. Okay, so don't focus on this 30-day free trial. That will be linked below this video. So $79 a month, use Premium Plus. Here's the reason. If you pick this and use it for 30-day free trial, you have only access to finding loads, posting trucks, and website mobile app access. That's it. Now, logically makes sense if you want to use 1, 2, 3 load board, pick up the Premium Plus because it will be 30-day free trial and you have access to every tool that they have, including the load planner, trip builder, and obviously finding carriers, building, what is it? They have the market rates. They also have a profit calculator. Well, actually it's here. You can see, know this. And now they're pulling this historical lane rates, negotiation, strength. It's there. Search directory. This is what I was talking about. And actually the entire trip building or the builder, it's there. So that is a 1, 2, 3 load board. Okay. So if you're a carrier, you're trying to, let's say, get a good load board, then 1, 2, 3 load board is your game. But then 1, 2, 3 load board requires you to have, the active MC number. So you have to be a carrier. So if you're a dispatch who wants to get access to a load board, you must have carrier first. If you have a carrier, then you can definitely have access. A lot of people get confused about how am I going to get access to a load board. Since they are building this specific access to you guys, it will be there. I don't know when, but as I said, I will be keep updating you as we go. But then you can use 1, 2, 3 load board, get a carrier, start dispatching, and using your carrier, you can get access to 1, 2, 3 load board, no problem. So guys, hope that helps. And again, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. If you are interested in more on training, something like that, just on the comment below, just let me know. Say, hey, Kamal, I want to learn this. I want to do that. I want to do this. And then I'll do my best to help you. And again, for the live stream, every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And on Sundays, we'll be doing 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to stick with the time that we have, 12 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays, and then 1 p.m. Thursday Eastern time, just let me know. And that works for us, right now, but we'll see as we go. Thank you for obviously joining me and asking questions. Let me know, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you. I'll see you on Thursday.